Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome into this week's episode of Smart Money Sundays. Hope this finds you all doing well after a great weekend. Today we're going to be breaking down probably 11-ish pairs. And obviously, given last week's episode, we talked about how we ought to proceed into the week using caution, right? And with a lot of things kind of up in the air, especially on those USD pairs and Japanese yen pairs, all right? And so, hit and miss last week in terms of what was projected, and that was obviously talked about at during the episode last week, and so I hope you all used caution last week. I think obviously the price action from last week gave us a clearer picture of kind of what's actually happening now. All right, and so, for me, it wasn't the greatest week in terms of percent return. I still finished the week positive, but that's just part of August trading, guys. And really through my experience, August is typically one of the worst months in terms of volatility and, trending wave play in the markets, right? We don't often have very clean wave play during the month of August as a lot of people are on holiday. And so we end up seeing a lot of choppy price action and seek and destroy, liquidity on both sides of the market. All right, but nevertheless, I think we have a clearer picture now of what's happening across the board on some of these dollar pairs. And so as usual, we're going to start off on our favorite pair, EURUSD. Right, and so we tapped into our significant level that we wanted to, that higher time frame objective, POI, and obviously we broke through that structure. All right, and so we essentially buy to sell here, right? Engulfing that price action where we had this significant range here created even on the daily time frame, right? And so what we were doing was engineering liquidity in the market, right, for a nice buy to sell move into the POI. So we like to see liquidity engineered, right? We like to see price kind of stall out and consolidate prior to running up into a POI, or vice versa if we're looking for long opportunities. All right, and so I think momentum has obviously now shifted entirely to the downside on pairs like EURUSD and GBPUSD, etc. Right, and obviously we're trading into that objective, right? Looking at sells last week, I said this was that kind of initial objective, that daily down close candle. That's been met. All right, but just because I said that was the objective doesn't mean I think it's going to necessarily go long from here. Obviously, we've traded into a POI and we're within a higher time frame bearish market. This low really ought to be taken out. Right, and so if you're looking at it from a weekly time frame perspective, look at this massive engulfing candle, right, with pretty much closed at the low of the week. Right, so you have the up close into the POI. The next week completely engulfs that price action. Right, even all of these weeks combined was engulfed last week. All right, so this is very indicative of, again, another leg higher time frame to the downside. And so really what we'd want to see is naturally a run up, right? If we could pop up to open the week, right, that would more or less be that kind of premium price, right, above the weekly open to get net short again, right? And so scaling into the lower time frames, right around that level, obviously we have some lower time frame price action here, right? And so for me, my POI is really going to be this area. Right, obviously we would prefer if we get back up into this, extreme level of price, the POI, but I just don't really see that happening. I don't really see a necessity for us, right, to push all the way back up into here. We more or less mitigated it with this wick right here. All right, so I don't think that that would be necessary. If that happens, then great. You know, we have a better premium to look for continuation short. But personally, I don't think we're likely to get above kind of this area here. All right, and so that brings us in around 1.0140, right, as the POI for continuations. All right, so go ahead and mark that off. And you know, going back to the higher time frames, I don't really see much that could potentially stop price. I'll actually hop out to the 2-week. I think price can very easily simply trade down into this old demand here, right? Nothing really in here I don't think is significant enough to, you know, be the catalyst to actually provide momentum to the upside, right? Until we trade back down into here. And that brings us into 9.340. All right, so 9.340 is going to be, for me, the very next higher time frame objective. And obviously that's a good 700 pips lower to the downside. All right, so that's kind of the bias. That's what we're looking at. POI 1, potential POI 2, if we can make it back up there. I highly doubt it, but we can't rule anything out in these markets, ever, right? We can't get married to one bias or one point of interest. All right. GBPUSD, guys, same thing. Same thing. This low will likely be run out this week. It would be nice if on these markets that we can kind of open the week and pop higher. All right, leave the low intact. Then we have more conviction, obviously, for continuations. But for me, the POIs here, this is going to be my first point of interest. We can get back up into this inefficiency here, right, where you can see that we have an old low here. Now that gets run out, sell to buy to sell. That's a beautiful model that we like to see, right? Where you run the lows, you trigger those sell stops, right? And you get people placing stop losses up here, right? And so you run them out, right? And then you engulf back to the downside with strong momentum. I'd like to see that inefficiency cleaned up, right? So we can really kind of trickle on back up into here, 1.2020. That would be beautiful for continuations, in my opinion. All right, and then obviously the secondary POI. We talked about last week. If we can get back up into there, again, like EURUSD, highly doubt it, but we don't rule it out. That would be the secondary POI. And that would be more or less 1.2170. All right, so very similar here on EU and GU. Now AU is a little different. We haven't seen quite as much momentum to the downside on this one, right? And we do have relative equal highs here now on AUDUSD, right? So I think, you know, we're kind of reaching that last critical point of whether or not we are going to make a push higher and run into this supply that we wanted, right? And so this 6-hour down close that we've been talking about for quite some time, or even this level, really are the last kind of point of call for this one. Otherwise, we could very easily just continue lower. All right, so it'll be interesting to see how price reacts, more so at this level, in my opinion. All right, so that would be nice if we could get some type of quick push higher. But again, that's going to likely take some significant dollar weakness, and I just don't really see that when looking at EURUSD and GBPUSD. Right, so I'm not too keen on kind of this level or even this level holding. The only thing that kind of is in my mind when considering it is the fact that price did on the weekly time frame trade into our higher time frame objective here and have that reaction. Right, but I think a next objective could be this inefficiency trading down into the supply, 6,500, 6,550. Could very well be on the cards. And if you just look at the weekly time frame, I mean, we completely engulfed the previous week's price action. So it's really not looking good for bulls at the moment, in my opinion. We could very easily spill over on this one. All right, but again, it'll just, you know, more or less be dependent upon how price reacts at this 6-hour down close candle. All right. Next one, USDCAD. All right, this is another one that I think we could very easily see a run higher into 1.3100 is a level that that I've been wanting for some time. And so, you know, we didn't quite get our POI to the downside, but it looks like we're breaking higher. Obviously, with the dollar strength that we're seeing on EURUSD, GBPUSD, more or less across the board, I think this can obviously propel back up into this supply. All right, and so in terms of the here and now, I think if we can use this as induced liquidity, right, where if we run these lows, trade into this higher low that produced this higher high, right, we could have a significant discount here and get a nice swing to the upside, right, trading back up into here. All right, and so, you know, the risk to reward here looks pretty promising. I'm not saying that you need to set a limit. In my opinion, I think it's fine to set a small risk position as limits and simply wait for lower time frame price action confirmation, time and price, to add on volume. Right, but you can see that potential 1 to 7 here, you know, and from this exact level, trading up into 3,100. All right. So just following the market structure here, high, higher low, higher high, liquidity, relative equal lows here, run those out, trade into demand, continuation. All right, pretty simple, pretty straightforward there. All right, NZDUSD, again, I think kind of like the other dollar pairs, this one, momentum is absolutely to the downside, right? And could very easily look at this box here as our next objective, so 6,100. All right, it's just a matter of where or if we can even get a pullback to continue to sell this thing. All right, so for me, this is my initial POI here. All right, this is my secondary POI. Right, quite clear. But if you just hop down to the lower time frames, right, it would just kind of be this demand, okay, have a reaction, break lower, demand fails, flips to supply. We never did retest this price action here. So this would be my first POI. If we can get back up into here, I would welcome shorting opportunities. If not, if we run the highs, that's great. We have more premium, and then we can continue to sell. All right, but looking for pullbacks as excuses to sell this market. All right, CADJPY, okay, another one that was called out last couple of episodes. We were looking at this ascending liquidity to be run out, right, and looking for that sell to buy. Right, with an understanding that these highs will get run, likely these highs will get run, likely these highs will get run. They just don't look like a top in the market. Right, so you can follow the structure here, high, higher low, higher high. Now it would be great if we can get a nice little sell-off here, 2-hour down close candle, looking for the continuation for another drive cycle into the highs, right? Obviously targeting this old high here or these highs here. All right, but that's what I like to see here on CADJPY. Higher time frame is still bullish. Now lower time frames are in alignment with the higher time frames, right? Following this structure here. All right, and that's really kind of what I'm looking at across the board on the yen pairs is further upside. Obviously the GJ was given out last week. Beautiful trade. I hope you caught that alongside me. We have these equal highs, descending liquidity. This has been left intact, right? Which is great because now we're flagging. And I'd really like to see discounted price to buy into the liquidity that's been left intact, right? And so for me, this will be my first point of interest, 161.25. Second point of interest, 160.875. And what you can also do here is obviously pull a reverse fib that give you a good idea. I like to do this just simply as a confluence. You can see an into B, and to C, that negative 27 is in alignment, right, with our first POI. All right, so really be kind of focusing up as price trades a little bit lower here on GJ, looking for accumulation to continue to buy this. Obviously into our pools of liquidity here, but ultimately back up into the supply, 165.50. Right, we could trade lower down into this, and that would be fine. Obviously, maintaining this structure. I don't foresee us trading lower than this low. Okay, so that's GJ. Okay, looking for a little bit more of a push lower and a continuation higher into liquidity. EURGBP. This one was a bit painful, tricky last week. Obviously, I gave out the selling opportunity. And it was a beautiful opportunity to start the week off of this level here. Right, caught a nice 1 to 5, 1 to 6 risk to reward. But it looks like we're pushing higher to the upside. That's okay. That's fine. We still have these equal lows. We're still in a higher time frame downtrend. We're just having a higher time frame retracement. Right, likely up into this extreme POI, right, within this swing point that created our new lower low. All right, and so what you can do is pull a reverse fib on this one as well. All right, and you can see that negative 27 comes up into alignment, right, with this significant level, 8540. 8540 is what I'd like to see. You know, the hourly inefficiency that we wanted some time ago, but never got, right? So this inefficiency, 8540. And obviously you can look for potential short-term buying opportunities up into 8540, potentially into here. Crude drawing, but back down into this old POI for a continuation push higher. All right, so 8470 up into 8540, and then looking for selling opportunities, higher time frame for a nice swing. All right, so good opportunities here on EG in my opinion. Quickly on Euro NZD, still want to see price trade up into this supply, right? This beautiful up close candle that ran a lot of liquidity. With NZD's weakness coming into the market, I'd be looking for buying opportunities, obviously, on the Euro NZD, Euro AUD. And for me, I think if we can run out this low here, right, if we can get a push lower, run out the low, trade into our inefficiency, demand here, that would be a beautiful opportunity to buy into that supply, right? Running out all of this liquidity. All right, so pretty simple, pretty straightforward on this one. It's just a matter of can we get that significant of a retracement. If we do, I would certainly welcome taking risk on a long opportunity. Couple more guys. CAD Swiss franc. All right, now this one had a significant liquidity run, kind of sell to buy, and we're more or less just ranging at the moment. All right, but I'd really like to see a push down into this, and actually it's a 1 hour time frame inefficiency. Right, inefficiency created, significant volume enters into the market, creates that almost higher high here. So it's somewhat of a risky potential opportunity. I'm probably not going to be placing a limit here, but more so looking for a lower time frame confirmation, reaction, break a structure on that lower time frame, sell to buy at the right time and price for a potential swing to the upside to run out a bunch of this descending liquidity here. Right, so if we get that confirmation at this POI, which I really do like, right, then obviously targets would be buy side liquidity above each of these highs. Okay, that would be targets. You can scale out at each old high. All right, but this just looks like a kind of flag pattern for a continuation higher. Just need to price in that higher low. Right, and what you could also do is, you know, be patient, wait for another high. That way we'd have confirmation, right, of the higher highs and higher lows in the market, and then you can look to take it on the third drive cycle. Right, different ways to approach these things. All right. Last one, Euro AUD, very similar to Euro NZD. I think on this one, it would be very nice to get back up into this supply as well. That ran a significant amount of liquidity to run out all these highs. That would be great. Starting to consolidate, which we like to see prior to a potential POI, which is this doji candle here. Right, so I'd really like to see that sell to buy, reaction, break a structure, pull back, continuation into our POI. All right, so those are my favorites this week on my watch list. I hope you've marked off these levels, and obviously we execute using the principles taught in our courses. Time and price is the most critical component in being able to confirm these points of interest. So if you're interested in learning more, head over to our website, aerialfxtrading.com, and book a free call with us. We'd be happy to run through our package with you and see if it's the right fit. All right, so I hope you have a wonderful week. Message us on Telegram at AerialFXTrading if you have any questions, and we will talk to you again next week. Thanks, guys.